Today's going to be a handstand follow along for the total beginner. We're going to keep it very simple. We're going to go through the basic drills to create a nice foundation to build upon and eventually work to that freestanding handstand. So let's first warm up. So spread the hands as wide as possible. Place the hands down on the floor, shoulders directly on top of the hands. Push into the hands, so quite a bit of weight there. It's very common that you'll keep weight back towards the feet. So try and keep more weight on top of the hands there, and then just do some slow circles, exploring the wrists, the hands. This is going to feel a little bit tight, a little bit funny. And I'm slowly making the circle bigger and bigger. And then I'm going to change direction. And I'm just going to start to peel the hands up and down. I'm going to go through different directions. Now if I go further apart, it's easier. If I go closer together, it's harder. I'm going to go right around the back as well. And then back around the sides to the front again, making sure I'm getting through the knuckles, through the fingers, through the palms. Now I'm going to come up onto hands and knees. I'm just going to play around with straightening one leg, taking the heel towards the floor, and then doing the same with the opposite side. Obviously flexibility of the hamstrings and calves is going to make this easier or harder depending on where you're at. And then I'm going to tie in the shoulders as well. So I'm pushing backwards through the palms, opening the shoulders as much as I can. Now I can tie this in and make it a little bit more like a down dog if I have the flexibility in my calves and hamstrings. If I struggle with that, I could bend one leg, or I could just keep both knees bent. I'm pushing back, and now I'm going to do the opposite. So instead of placing the weight back into the feet, I'm going to place the weight forwards and round the upper back, and load through the hands. So the upper back and shoulders should feel very strong here. I don't want to be collapsing down. I want to be pushing the floor away. Then I'm going to come back to those hamstrings, calves again. Remember, if I need to, I can bend one leg. Or if I have it, straightening both sides, pushing back with the shoulders. And then one more time, rounding up through that upper back. Get lots of weight there. You can even come up onto tiptoes if you have that. And then I'm going to come back again. Next I'm going to do a quad hip flexor stretch. So I'm going to place my knee on a rolled up mat in this lunge position. I'm going to tuck under, so posterior tilt. So I'm going to tip the pelvis backwards. So trying to open up in here as much as I can. And then to wind up the stretch, I'm just going to take the hip forwards, but still trying to maintain this open position there. Hold for about 5-10 seconds, and then I'm going to come back again. Rest for a second, same thing again. And last one. Swap sides, exactly the same thing on the opposite side. So start in that lunge position, posterior tilt, so tucking the pelvis under, and then just push forwards towards the stretch. And then come back, same again. And last time. Nice. Next time we're looking at my body line position. So I'm just going to lay down on my back. I'm going to push my low back to the floor. So make sure I can get contact with the low back against the floor and then come back off again. So that's that posterior tilt, taking the low back towards the floor and then coming back off again. If that feels okay, I'm going to try and do the same thing with the legs a little bit further away from me. So posterior tilt, low back to the floor. Notice I'm holding a conversation as well, and I'm also keeping my head on the floor. So the focus is just on this pelvis area. Then I'm going to try and go out a little bit further. Just stay wherever you need to, where you can keep contact with the low back against the floor. And then if you can, legs all the way out, which is a bit harder. You'll notice my voice changes. My low back is still pushed hard into the floor. And I'm just going to walk back again. Now I'm going to do it a little bit quicker, low back into the floor. I'm going to hold my low back into the floor. I'm going to walk the feet out as far as I can, hold for a few seconds, and then come back again. Okay, next, lift one leg up. See if you can take one leg away, touch the floor, come back again. Again, keeping the low back against the floor all the time. Try the other leg. Now if you can do those two quite comfortably, then the next one we're going to lift the feet off the floor, push the low back into the floor, and now I'm going to extend the legs as far as I can. This one's much harder. See how far you can go out, maintaining that low back against the floor, and then come back again. So if you can't get out very far, just go a little bit and come back again. Over time, you're going to be able to go further and further, and then come back. Nice. Now we're going to start to go closer to the handstand position. I'm going to place the hands on the floor close-ish to the wall. I'm going to give myself enough space where I can put 1 foot against the wall and 2 feet against the wall. So I'm trying to push the floor away. We don't want to be collapsing here. We want to be elevating and pushing up as high as you can. Hold for a few seconds, come back out again. Just make sure you got enough space there. If you haven't, take the hands a little bit further away. Exactly the same, but now I'm going to take the feet a little bit higher. Make sure the hips are away from the wall. We don't want to be collapsing this way. We want to stay positive in that position, and then come back down again. And then one more, see if you can straighten all the way with the legs and hold that position. So if you struggle with this one, just back off to one of the easier variations. So more like this, and then come back down again. Short rest off the hands. So now I'm going to go into a cross leg position. So I've got one leg bent on the floor. I'm going to bring the other leg in front of it like that. And then I'm just going to push my hand up in that position. Now if I can, I could sit upright in this position. So it's going to give me a good stretch in my left hip. Just as tall as you can, as upright as you can in that position. If you need to, you can have your hand down there, or you could have your elbow or hand on a box or a bench. You can lean forwards to take the chest towards the knee, or if you have more range, you can start to push into some rotation, start to look that way. But really just focus on getting a good stretch in that left hip. Then we're going to swap sides. So right foot over left now in that position. Nice and upright torso. Use the hand if you need to. And then you can hug the knee, or you can pull round further, and again you're going to get that stretch. Now in the opposite hip, in the right side. Nice. Then we're going to come back out. Now we're going to do a hold in that same position we was in a second ago. If we can walk our hands a little bit closer towards the wall, but let's just see if we can get 45 seconds up in that position. Okay, let's go. So see how close you can get to the wall, go up to that handstand position, but make sure you're nice and tall, don't collapse in any way. So we'll do 45 seconds here. If you need to come out before you fall down. So we don't want to fall out of this position. We want to always come in and out of the position controlled. If it's easy, I can start to walk the hands a little bit closer, but just remember that you need to come back out and get back down at the end of the hold. So try and stay in that positive position. Don't let the body collapse in any way. So nice and tall, pushing the floor away from you. Tiptoes only on the wall. Don't let anything else touch the wall unless you're doing a version where your knees are on the wall. But I would recommend toes even if you're in that closed hip position. So keep pushing away. Remember, if you need to come down before the timer's up, come down, that's fine. And that's 45 seconds. So walk the hands back out, walk back down with control. Next, we'll just sit in a seated straddle position. So I've got my knees bent and I'm just going to lean forwards. I'm trying to keep a flat low back. So in that position. Now, if you're comfortable in this straddle position, we can make it harder by straightening the legs. If you find it hard, do the opposite. Keep the knees bent, raise the hips up even more, and just lean forwards. You should feel a stretch in your hamstrings and the inside of your legs and the adductors. If you do have more range, you can lower the hip even closer towards the floor, or even be on the floor and come further forwards with the torso in that direction. But think you're going in that direction. You're not going head towards the floor. We want to be reaching away as we come down in this position. Okay, and then come back out of there. Next, let's look at the kick-ups, so the entry to the handstand. Now this needs to be very controlled, and again, something that we can continually work on to slowly get better and better and better and more control. So I'm going to place the hands down on the floor. I'm going to keep the shoulders directly on top of the hands. I'm going to look at a focal point between my hands. So go into that position, and then from here, looking at that focal point, I'm just going to do a little kick, come back down again. Little kick, come back down again. So notice the shoulders are maintaining their position on top of the hands, and my focal point, so where I'm looking, stays exactly the same on every kick. Now my goal here is to get 1 foot to touch the wall. If I can get one foot to touch the wall, I can go 1, 2, and then come back down again. And if that feels okay, I'm gonna do exactly the same, but come higher with the feet. So I get higher and higher and more in that handstand position. But notice how I'm kissing the wall, I'm not smashing into the wall. Now if you struggle with that and you can't get one foot to touch, you can use a box or something to put your, and you can play with different heights, but the idea is that's just gonna help you to get up and feel what it's like to get into that position and start to load the hands. And with this drill, combined with attempting to do the kick-ups, combined with that other one we just done with the chest wall position, will slowly build that strength and conditioning and allow you to get more and more confident with the position. And then over time, you're gonna be able to kick up higher and higher and higher. Now, if you can get all the way up to the wall, you can start to play with your heel pull every time you get up. So the heel pull means I pull my heels from the wall using my fingertips. So this is exactly the same as if I place my head on the wall, push through my toes, take the head off the wall, and then go back again. So I'm using my toes to pull myself on and off the wall by taking pressure off the floor and back on again. So push through the toes, takes the head off, relax the toes, goes back to the wall. And I do exactly the same thing. The top of that kick up, if I have a good kick up, so shoulders on top, focal point, I kick up, 1, 2. Now I push through the fingers, pull myself off, back down again. So I'm getting used to every time I kick up, controlling the handstand with my hands and not kicking off the wall. Now this follow along is part of the beginner program in my app. So if you're interested in that, the details are down in the description. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks guys.